everybody, welcome to GeekStorm. It's so good to be back. Today on this episode of GeekStorm, we are going to be discussing the new Hellboy movie starring David Harbour. We're going to jump on into some Disney Plus because information has finally been released. We're not really talking about Star Wars stuff because all that's going to happen just in a couple hours after we finish this up.
We've passed on all we know. 1,000 generations live in you now. But this is your fight. Be with you. No one's ever really gone.
But hopefully we'll have on our Facebook some live reporting from the convention from Mike Harrison discussing what he saw and the new title of the brand new Star Wars film, plus some other things going on. So this week in Geek, I am joined by our producer, director, Mike Dukes. How's it going, buddy?
Going well. How are you doing?
Doing great. Wonderful.
Are you finally over your...
I am at 95%, I believe. I feel pretty good. I feel healthy. Every once in a while there's a cough or something, but I don't think it's related to being sick. I think it's just dry, trying to get into this new weather. You know, we got spring vying with the last elements of winter. And
hey, at least we didn't get that snow bomb they were talking about.
Yeah, it's crazy. Horrible, horrible weather throughout some of the Midwest, and luckily we were able to miss it. So, before we get going, I want to take a little somber element to say goodbye to a good friend who's passed away recently. In Kokomo, there was a gentleman by the name of Chip Carmichael, who was a customer of Kokomo Comics and Comics Cube since he was a very, very young man. Like, mom and dad would drive him in, and unfortunately, he's just recently passed away. And he's a good friend, hardcore geek that I've loved dearly. Loved getting to know him and hang out with him a little bit. Talking comic books with him was a great joy. So, wanted to say goodbye in official capacity, seeing we have the platform, to a Kokomo native who was heavily involved in comics and geek stuff, and just a great overall person who I will greatly miss. So, with that said, what do you got in geek this week? Anything jumping out at you that you know you got involved in? Anything exciting and wild? How's your new cosplay coming along? You know, is that doing okay?
My cosplay?
I'm sure you're involved in some kind of amazing cosplay.
No cosplay.
Not even a little bit?
Not even the least bit. No, cool. That's the other Mike.
Oh, all right. Well, I can hope. With your creative abilities, I keep expecting you to one-up him sometimes. So, but all right. So nothing new and exciting for you, huh?
I want to bring one thing. Okay, you don't watch Game of Thrones.
I don't, but that's okay. You know what? I am in the minority. It's not a big deal. I didn't get into it, but I understand that people love it, and it's great geekdom. So,
well, that's coming out this Sunday, but that's not what I want to talk about.
Oh, all right.
What I want to talk about is there's a character, Jorman Mormont, older gentleman. He has now been cast as Bruce Wayne in season 2 of Titans.
Okay.
and it just, I'm okay with it. It strikes me as a little.
I mean, how old are we talking? Are we talking 50s, 60s, 70s?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
50s, yeah. He's lined face. He's not a
He's
young
gonna be
chicken.
The craggy.
Yes, that's.
Kind of,
I guess that's the idea.
Batman Beyond.
Yeah, he's been around the block a few times.
I like that. That could be cool. I don't know the character from Game of Thrones, but that sounds pretty interesting.
I mean, they already introduced Jason Todd last season.
Okay.
And you had a, not a flashback, but a hallucination of sorts caused by Trigon, making Dick Grayson think he was seeing Batman doing all these horrible things.
Okay.
So you saw the character Batman in costume in shadow, but you didn't actually see who it was in the costume. I just found it interesting that in Batman vs. Superman, they kind of steered in an older version, and now yet again an older version, and yet in the Batman movie supposedly that's coming out, I guess they're going to go back.
DH him now.
Yeah.
Go to some training. I think.
Which happens in the comic books all the time. You can jump around. I mentioned this last week. In comics, you could have multiple hundreds of variations of a character. No one bats an eye because it's comic books and they're used to it. You try and do that sort of thing on the big screen, though, the average moviegoer is not used to that. They have one image in their head of Batman or Superman or Spider-Man. If you suddenly switch that, like with the Joker movie coming out, I got a lot of hate just because it's not what they were used to.
Definitely looks. I mean, yeah, there's definitely a lot of different things going on. The thing that I find interesting is that the studios, for decades, generations, have tried to have some kind of cohesive thing so as to not confuse fans. That's always kind of been a big deal, is we don't want to confuse fans.
Yeah,
now DC is at this point, it's like, screw it. You know what, they're smart enough, they'll figure it out or they won't, but we'll see how it goes. So,
well, even with that, I mean, I'm still confused on that because the information coming out about the Joker movie, it's set in the 80s, I believe. And yet, there are reports that he shot a scene with Margot Robbie on the lot of Birds of Prey.
Joaquin?
Yeah.
That is weird.
So I don't know.
See, you definitely had Jared Leto involved in it. Well, we'll see how it all shakes out.
It's a little weird.
We'll see if maybe there's some weird dream sequence where she sees, you know, all kinds of different versions of the Joker. Maybe it's hard to say for sure. So, some interesting, wild stuff going on.
But man, Disney. You said it well last night. Disney walked on stage, made their spiel, and dropped the mic and walked off.
Oh, it's crazy. So, Disney Plus, which is the name of the streaming service, which we've known about for a little while, Disney had their investors meeting yesterday. And so, big deal. This is talking to the people who are putting the money into the programming, into the shows, into Disney. Investors are incredibly important to this company. And this is usually where they lay out a lot of information. And they came out and they laid out a lot of information. But the biggest thing that they laid out is that Disney Plus will start on November 12th of 2019 at $6.99 a month. So you got CBS streaming, which I don't know the numbers because they don't release that kind of information to us, but as a fan looking at it from the outside, it seems, one, I have not signed up for CBS, even with Star Trek, and a huge geek that I am. I haven't watched season 1, except for the first episode.
Star Trek is the only property I see CBS continually pushing for that live streaming
They
channel.
had a spin-off of The Good Wife, which I think I saw the first season of that, and it was okay. I forget how I watched it. I might have watched it a little shady-like. But yeah, I mean, I'm just not hearing anything about CBS's streaming. Whereas Disney's streaming at $6.99 a month, they're like, oh, by the way, here's what we're going to do. You're going to get 7,500 episodes of television on day one. Access to 500 movies on day one. All 30 seasons of The Simpsons on day one. And as for original programming, confirmed, and even they showed like a little test strip of what their format would look like on televisions, you know, how you got your Netflix or your Hulu or whatever. They showed what the Disney version will look like. And on it, the big strip at the top was Mandalorian, which will be the Jon Favreau live action Star Wars thing. Which
And that starts day one, November 12th.
the only thing I don't know, and I couldn't find any information in, is it weekly? Is it episodic? Or do they do the Netflix dump where it all comes out at once. I think they're going to go episodic with it.
I would say probably at first.
And stretch it out a little bit. And then once they're all out, then it'll be available to binge all you want. Rumor right now has that Jon Favreau Mandalorian show at possibly $10 million an episode.
Well, all of these, even the Marvel shows and Star Wars, they have said they're going to be on par with the big screen. It's not going to be a dumbed down budget or anything. It's going to be largely a movie on your TV. So
that's crazy. Then on top of it, again, on this little thing you saw, Falcon and Winter Soldier, and that will be Anthony Mackie and Sebastian Stan starring. So the actors from the show are coming back. WandaVision, which will be Scarlet Witch, which is Olsen, and Paul Bettany as Vision. They're coming. Loki with Tom Hiddleston is still scheduled. So, I mean, these are all big name actors that are on schedule, and they're putting it out there. Then on top of that, you're getting National Geographic, which isn't necessarily a huge deal to me, but if you've ever watched a lot of the Disney documentaries and stuff, there's a lot going on with that. I think there's a Jeff Goldblum one coming up. They've got a couple originals for that. They've got Phineas and Ferb, a movie coming out. There's a High School Musical. So they're hitting all the different platforms. So if you're a Star Wars fan, you're going to have a whole little platform within the Disney Plus where you can go and check out the Clone Wars, the new season. You can check out Mando. You can check out New Hope was on one of their little tabs that you could have, clicked on. So it appears that they're going to have all the Star Wars movies. Now, which versions, who knows? But it's very exciting. That price point is great. That's half amazing. The price of Netflix. And I've been saying for a while, like people are complaining that Netflix thing went up to $12.99, and they're complaining about it. I'm like, I wouldn't even hesitate to keep Netflix until it got to at least $20, $25 a month. You're going to have to take Netflix to at least $25 a month for me to even consider walking away from Netflix right now. It's just got that much entertainment for me. I'm willing, if it wasn't for my wife, I would probably be like, cancel cable altogether and just give me my Netflix and then maybe Hulu.
That's what I do.
That's all I would need. But she watches some trash that, I think she likes, so that's fine. So yeah, Disney Plus, huge. And then, unconfirmed but popping up on a lot of reliable sources, is talk of a Jeremy Renner-led Hawkeye series, also for Disney Plus. Now, not a lot of information quite yet.
He dodged questions on that one. Didn't want to answer anything, so I'm not sure.
There's too many sources are reporting it for me to not think that this is going to be a reality. Now, what I have been able to dig up is that Jeremy Renner will basically be Hawkeye to pass the torch to a new Hawkeye.
That's what I read this morning.
Which will be Kate Bishop. Kate Bishop's first appearance is in Young Avengers #1, so go out, get yourself a Young Avengers #1, and get it now. I'm actually in the market for a Young Avengers #1. I've loved Kate Bishop. She is a great character. She is a late teens, early 20s female Hawkeye. In the book, Hawkeye died. I know it's hard to believe in comics, but Hawkeye died for an X amount of time. He was gone for a while. And so after a while, the Young Avengers popped up, and this Kate Bishop was a bow user and didn't go by his name for a long time. But then eventually she took the name Hawkeye in, kind of reverence to Clint. And so now we're talking about a TV show that could see those two come across. The comics that this was based on, if they're doing what we think they're doing, which would be the Matt Fraction Hawkeye storyline, is amazing. It's humor, it's action, it's really, really well done. It's so good. The idea is that Hawkeye is your one Avenger with nothing. He has no powers. He's just a completely normal dude who happens to be able to shoot a bow and arrow really, really well. And so it's the series was what happens on Hawkeye's days off. And there's no costume. His costume is like a pair of jeans and a t-shirt with like a little arrow thing on it that's just not even that big a deal. And he ends up, it's him in his apartment building and stuff. And then he ends up hanging out with Kate Bishop a little bit, and they get involved with some stuff, and it's very, very funny. But well put together, so I highly recommend checking that out. Just really an excellent series. So
That sounds awesome, because I read the same thing, that he's going to be passing the torch. But then that also made me think, the Old Man Hawkeye comic is really popular. That kind of opens the door for that. If he wants to come back and do something like that, because they also announced the What If animated series.
yes, I'm really excited about that. That'll be Marvel's first animated ongoing through Disney Plus. And What If is a classic comic that featured all the pivotal moments in the Marvel universe, and what if it went this way. So like a perfect example of the movies would be, what if Thanos snapped, and instead of the characters we saw die, they all lived, and all the characters you saw live, they all died. What if that happened? And then you go from there, and then you tell the story. And these were usually really well done stories, and because they were alternate universe, they were continuity, is what they usually said, but it wasn't in the traditional Marvel universe. So what they did was they had, this is our Earth, and it was 616. And then there's all these other thousands of hundreds of thousands, infinite Earths. So over on Earth, 5,558, this is what happened. And so a lot of classic stories took place in those books, and I'm hoping that we're going to see that.
I think the first one's going to be Peggy Carter as Captain America.
Oh, really? That'd be great. So that is the kind of stuff that you would expect to see. And and they also could get a little darker with some of those. When they did the original What Ifs, they didn't have happy endings all the time. Sometimes, because it was an alternate thing, they could do, they could kill Captain America. So in the What If, it wouldn't necessarily, if it was the comic book version, it wouldn't necessarily be Peggy showed up and she got the serum instead of Cap. They might have done a whole story where it was Cap, and when he died in the plane and crashes, Peggy then decides to take up the mantle of Captain America. They did a lot of really cool storytelling techniques with it and did all kinds of different things. So highly recommend checking that out. But Disney Plus, yeah, holy cow. We're going to have a lot more, I'm sure, over the next couple of months leading up to it. And I got to say, I didn't sign up for the DC Universe streaming. Not yet. I'm really, really close now. I've had too many friends telling me great things about it. I didn't sign up for CBS streaming, but I got to say that the Disney one, if they offer a year in advance with some kind of special promotion, it's a guarantee. I'm gonna jump on that right away.
That's a lot of stuff.
Yeah, it's just crazy. So that's pretty awesome. Also in AMC news then, or jumping over to AMC, they're talking about a third Walking Dead TV show.
Yeah.
Now I've never watched the second Walking Dead TV
Fear
show.
the Walking Dead?
Never seen an episode of that. I haven't seen Walking Dead now in probably a season and a half. And I've heard, I've kept up because of what I do for a living, and people talk about it, so that's fine. I know quite a bit about what's going on. But I'm under the impression the ratings are down for almost all the series across the board, including the main series featuring now Daryl and Carol, because I'm under the impression that the actress who plays Michonne, she's now leaving.
Yeah.
So, and that's a big character to lose in the book. She's very, very popular. So,
well, there was talk of her possibly joining for the Rick Grimes standalone movies.
Oh, really? That'd be interesting.
But yeah, we talked about it last week, how, from what I'm reading, these latest episodes have been some of the best Walking Dead episodes in a number of seasons, but the ratings are just still
stagnating.
falling.
That's not good. So, but hey, you know what? Ratings are down. Let's introduce a third show. Now, the premise, from what I've been able to dig up on the internet about the new premise, is that this will take place with the generation after zombies appeared. So I'm under the impression Fear the Walking Dead was before the zombies and what led up to what happened. The Walking Dead starts with Rick right in the middle of the zombies. So this will be the generation whatever the daughter of Rick is, I guess. I don't know her name.
I can't think of it.
Ass Kicker or something like that. I don't know. Hopefully they've changed her name by now. But this will be the first generation that's grown up in a world full of zombies, and what they're going to do with 2 or 3 female leads is what we're hearing right now. Now this is pretty early on, so we'll see how it goes. But it'll be interesting to see if we see any characters from the comics that haven't been used, which I really can't think of any. They almost all get used, or if it'll all be all original, if there'll be any shuffling of characters around to see if somebody can fit somewhere else. Because I'm under the impression they took Morgan from Walking Dead over to Fear the Walking Dead.
Yep.
He somehow walked from Georgia to California or something. That's a lot of clearing.
I stopped watching. I have no idea. Well, I know Fear the Walking Dead, they hopped on a boat. I don't know where they went, so they could have ended up, who knows where, would have made his journey a little easier.
Get on a boat. It's boat season.
And here recently, I guess it was the first time they had snow in Walking Dead.
Okay.
So they had to contend with freezing
The
weather.
elements? The zombies aren't bad enough, but now we got snow.
And then there's those frozen zombies that once they thaw, they're right back to normal.
Huh. It's a good visual. I just don't know that it makes a lot of sense. They're in Georgia. So, I mean, I'm saying Georgia doesn't get snow, but come on. If there's a lot less humans in the world, which we're in the impression there's a lot less humans in the world, I would think that nature might be, getting back on track a little bit. And those emissions should be a lot better.
I
the
would
greenhouse
think,
effect should be a lot better. So I don't know that Georgia should be getting a ton of snow. Unless, they get up to like North Dakota, Minnesota, then all of a sudden, that might become a huge problem.
That should be the show they do. Walking Dead Fargo.
There you go. Hey, it's a little zombie.
That would be a ratings killer.
Be great. Last night, I was one of the few people that bothered to go see David Harbour
It was
in
not a packed
Hellboy.
It wasn't a packed crowd.
No, you had choice. I had choice seating. I had the seat I wanted in the dead in the middle of the theater. Me and my wife and two buddies went. I would say there might have been 15 people total in the whole theater, maybe. Now it was a Thursday show for a rated R movie, and not one that's getting very favorable reviews.
I guess school is still in session, so
yeah. It's getting hammered. It's getting hammered badly, and I don't know that it's well deserved. I'm a big Hellboy fan. I've bought the original Hellboys when they first came out. I've followed Mike Mignola and these characters for quite some time, but I have to admit I haven't kept up on it as much as I'd like. I've read like maybe the first 5 or 6 stories and enjoyed them immensely, and then we'll go back from time to time and catch a new book and trade and check that out. But my impression going into it and after having seen it was it is a fun, sarcastic, witty, gory situation. Could Perlman and Del Toro have done this movie? Absolutely. The visuals under a Del Toro, I'm sure, would have even been maybe a little bit better. But the use of CGI and practical effects, there is a lot of effects in this movie. Holy cow. Hellboy is in almost every scene. So this isn't one of those things where Cap shows up and he's in a civilian thing, or Tony shows up and he's Tony. He is Hellboy from the minute you see him all the way through, and again, he's in almost every single scene. So there is a effect on the screen at all times. And then you've got all the demons and fairies and all the other creatures of the darkness. That is crazy. There's a Baba Yaga scene that's, I think people are going to be talking about if they just stop dumping on the movie and go see it. It is a really, really creepy, eerie, great scene. I think you're really going to dig it. Just really far out there. Good stuff. He definitely has, David Harbour, who's starring as Hellboy, has got some Ron Perlman type stuff mixed in with his own take on the character. I think he's a little less caring about the world in general. He's a little more aloof than Perlman's character. Perlman tried to be all
kind of like a warm and fuzzy demon.
Yeah, he might be a little bit crotchety, but in the end, he was just a good guy. And this guy is more jaded a little bit. He's been around a long time and isn't always treated great.
In this one, because the Perlman movies, he was like kept a secret, and isn't he like an open?
He is like the worst kept secret. It's one of those deals where I think it's supposed to be an urban legend, but in the world, and they pointed out in the world of phones, like every time he shows up, he's Instagrammed, Facebook Live, he's everywhere. And because he is everywhere, there's so many pictures of him and stuff. So it's a really they kind of make fun of the fact that it's supposed to be a secret because he just shows up. He's walking into places. He's not hiding. The horns are out. The tail's swinging around. There's, the preview even where he walks into the fish and chips place, which is a secret thing, and is asked for ID, and he's like, "Are you serious?" Stuff like that. So I think it was well done. I mean, as I said, the level of hate that I'm seeing for this movie is, even if you don't think it's a great movie, it's still a fun action adventure, gory little horror romp. I mean, there's plenty going on. And if you're a Hellboy fan, they squashed like 5 or 6 different kind of Hellboy stories or scenes into this movie to make it up. So you're getting plenty of Hellboy. And they even went one step further to try and, I won't say distance themselves from the Perlman stuff, because they do a really quick homage to his origin, but it's like an hour into the movie. And you kind of see the Nazis and all that, and you see Rasputin, you see, was it Cronenberg? You see all those kind of characters, but then they don't really mention Rasputin again. You see him, he's done, and we're moving on, and there's all these other characters. So I like the fact that they touched on it, but they didn't dwell upon it. But yeah, just overall, really, I liked it. I think people should go check it out. If you like The Evil Dead, that third one, I think that
Army of Darkness.
Army of Darkness. There's got a little bit of that kind of a thing to it. There's about a 5-minute scene at the end that I think Cthulhu fans will dig. Not that it's Cthulhu, but you get the sense of like great old ones arriving on Earth, kind of, and just this uncaring, unfeeling, but demons instead of aliens. It was good. I think I look forward to having some friends see it and having some healthy discussion about what they thought about it. So
there were a couple of end credit scenes too, right? So is it leading into a sequel, you think?
So there's 3. There's a capper. The movie ends and you have your closure and it's over. But then it's almost like the first Blade movie, where the movie ends and then it's like Siberia or wherever, and then you have a quick little thing with them there. The exact same thing. It's Siberia, and then your 3 main characters you followed have an action, like the opening of a James Bond or an Indiana Jones movie. That action scene is at the end to cap it, and then there's a reveal at the very, very end of that, and then credits. Then in the middle of the credits, you get a Lobster Johnson pick, which he is in the main movie as well. He is part of the flashback to the origin. So there's a scene in the mid-credits where it's Hellboy and he meets up with his hero, and that's funny. And then at the very, very end, there's a final credit scene, and all 3 of them, the capper and the 2 mid-credit scenes, all deal with the possibility of the Hellboy future movies. So the end credit one definitely could lead right into the next movie. But yeah, really good stuff.
I mean, the budget was only $50 million for this movie. People are crying because
they squeezed every penny out of that $50 million. Holy cow. A drinking game, if you want to die. If you want to die. Every time you see a name in the credits that is an Ov, Kaslov, Romanov, any kind of Ov, you take a drink. And within 30 seconds, you're dead. And I'm talking Keith Richards is dead. There is nobody that can survive. I've never seen so many Eastern European names in my life. There are more V's in the credits of Hellboy than there are in every movie that you will see in the next 10 years. You've got to check it out. It's hilarious. I can't make this up. We're sitting there, and at first we're like, oh, yeah. You get through your main cast, but then it goes into all of the others, those giant, just massive names coming down, and it got to the point where we're just laughing in the middle of the theater. There's that many. I mean, it just never ended. And then you would see the same last names over and over and over again, but it's obviously, it's just
different person.
It's Smith over wherever, and it's just, oh man, you gotta check it out. But that $50 million, holy cow, they got so much. Again, there is an effect in every single scene. There's never not an effect. It's
just the trailers alone made it pretty obvious they had some pretty hefty effects going on.
Oh yeah, it just never ends. And then the replacement of Domo, They had big controversy at first because they were going to have, I think, the guy from Deadpool come over and play an Asian character.
Daniel Day Kim
plays Domo in this, and he's great. Now, I'm not going to say that the other guy wouldn't have been great, but one, it worked. Daniel Day Kim's great. The effect that they use on him, spoiler, he's a were-leopard. And it's really good. And they do a good job of kind of hiding it because he's Hellboy is big, giant, plotting wrestler type. He's Hulk Hogan. Well, then when they finally let this guy, and it's not, you don't get to see him until the very end do the thing. He is the high-flying, super fast, bouncing all over the place, so you don't get to see him really well. But just the whole thing. Yeah, I'll probably see it again.
I was disappointed I didn't go see it with you, but debate's called.
Yeah, well, it's okay. We can debate Hellboy. Get us up there at the same podiums and bring in some people, and we'll talk about it. So, well, there you go, people. I think that's going to cover us for today on GeekStorm, where it doesn't really matter. Yeah, it's good enough. That covers the material, and I don't feel like, unless you got something else you want to add real quick, that covers my list of stuff.
Did you watch WrestleMania?
I did watch WrestleMania.
Do you believe Ronda Rousey was meant to lose, or was it because she broke her hand and that's just how things fell through?
I think it was a botch. I think at the end of WrestleMania, Ronda gets pinned by Becky Lynch. Becky Lynch, I believe, was going to win. I believe it's how it was supposed to be set up. She's so over with the fans right now. She's over with me. She's very watchable. She's a lot of fun. But at the very end, when they did the pin, and they did a clean pin on Rousey, her shoulders were very obviously not down on the mat. But I believe that they were supposed to be. I don't think the ref really screwed it up that badly. I think that just the way that the stuff was going on, things got a little messed up. But if it was messed up or not messed up, what it does in the storytelling for wrestling is this. When Ronda decides to come back after she takes some time off, there's talk that she might want to have a family, she might want to have kids. But if she does or doesn't do that, when she comes back, perfect storytelling, you didn't beat me. My shoulders weren't down. The ref beat me. You didn't beat me. You didn't win clean. I haven't been beat yet, and I want you. And that just leads into another great thing. So in the world of wrestling, I think it worked out for everybody in the end. I'm sure people were a little ticked. I heard backstage there was some upset stuff, and they thought it looked screwy. But the truth is this is one of those happy accidents that will end up working out for everybody in the long run.
And then Batista officially retired.
Yes, but I will say this about Hellboy, at least the version we saw, there were so many great previews. Batista is in 2 different comedic action things coming up.
I knew he was in one. I didn't know about 2.
That looked hilarious. One they even had at WrestleMania. They've got the comedian who I like from Big Sick. He was in Franklin and Bash. He's great.
Dane Cook?
No, I said great, not shitty.
I thought Dane Cook was in the movie.
I think he might be Pakistani. I'm not sure. He's
I know what you're talking about.
Might
I can't
not
think of
be.
his name.
I'm horrible with that stuff, but he's great and super funny. And he's an Uber driver that gets stuck with Batista. The other one is a little girl with Batista who figures out he's a CIA agent and blackmails him into training her. I mean, it's a little kid. And it's not like The Professional or Leon where it's like, it's a comedy. And it's very, very funny. So we saw a lot of great previews. So there you go. Be groovy, everybody.